Welcome back as the Fox Texas Trio unpacks our conversation with newly elected Republican Congressman Wesley Hunt. Stephen, what, if anything, caught your attention in Wesley Hunt's statements?
I don't think it's so much of what caught my attention, but I think he does provide a new set of eyes. You know, what's been all the drama playing out this week there in Congress, and some of the new members also being a part of that. Hunt's not. He's been backing McCarthy, but I think he provides a fresh set of eyes. But I said repetition because a lot of these statements, a lot of these things he's been talking about and pushing in that interview are things that Republicans have been talking about for the past 2 years. And so, if anything, I think he provides a fresh set of eyes. And then the elephant in the room, I mean, he is a black Republican. That's something that's not very plentiful in Congress. And so I think he'll provide new context.
Rudy, same question. Hunt stuck pretty closely to GOP talking points, but you are pretty solid at gauging nuance. Do you see him as a potentially effective voice for Republicans?
Yeah, I like what Dr. Dial had to dial in there. New set of eyes. That's pretty good. But he also could provide a possible bridge between the Never Kevins and the GOP majority after all the dust finally settles over the speaker's fight. Hunt's to-do list, you know, it's certainly a big part of the Republican platform. So there is common ground there, but a lot of fence mending is going to have to happen. I find it interesting. The core issue in the Republican congressional meltdown is that the Never Kevin holdouts are upset that GOP leaders in the past have compromised with Democrats on legislation, which certainly is an important part of democracy and a successful government. But they have hijacked the speaker vote by demanding the GOP majority do the same exact thing, compromise with them or else. Pretty ironic, which is why that was my word earlier.
All right, Stephen, you touched on this. Hunt, in a sense, replaces Will Hurd as the only African-American in the Texas GOP delegation. Any chance he could potentially help the party make inroads with black voters?
Well, participation is the start, right? It's half the battle. I think Republicans are better to try to continue to tap into the Hispanic population. Now, no minority is a monolithic voting bloc. Of course, African Americans vote majority Democrat, but I think Republicans have a better pitch to Hispanic voters than they do African American voters. It'll be interesting to see. Of course, he can help the Republican Party. Diversity is what any party should have, but I think as far as the Republican Party trying to be more of a big tent, I think they have a better chance of getting more Hispanic voters.
Okay, Rudy, back in November, Hunt was among the first to endorse Trump's bid for another presidential term. But a lot has happened in the past 7 weeks. Do you sense a softening of support?
Yeah, I kind of heard that. I didn't see it in the interview, but it sure sounded like he has a parachute with him. His comment about letting things just play out in a primary is a typical bailout plan that some politicians like to use when they're stuck supporting a candidate with a lot of problems, like Trump, who has also been at odds with the Never Kevin holdouts. Greg?
Stephen, clearly the border crisis is a core issue for Hunt and Republicans. And after 2 years in office, President Joe Biden is finally making his first visit. Will it be too little too late?
I don't think it's ever too late, but Republicans, if they control the narrative in the media, then of course they'll say it's too late. This has already been a terrible issue. It has been. No one can deny that there is not a real problem on the border. However, if he's going, which he is this Sunday, then that could be the olive branch to start a conversation. Senator John Cornyn told reporters this week that he just doesn't want it to be a photo op. He wants the president to make some tough decisions and try to work with both sides to make real change. This is the start, and like Cornyn said, it can't just be a photo op. It has to be more.
Rudy, after allowing a record 2.5 million immigrants to cross unimpeded this year alone, could Biden's El Paso visit actually do more harm than good?
Well, I agree with Stephen. This cannot be an ice cream social in El Paso. The damage certainly is done, and Biden has dug a very deep hole to climb out of, especially after saying that there are more important things going on when he was asked about avoiding the border during his recent trip to Arizona and going to that ice cream shop. You know, more political rhetoric, more political spin, more empty promises will only help Republicans recover from their infighting, that dumpster fire up there in Congress right now.
Stephen, Rudy touched on this. Hunt downplayed the ugly intramural battle for Speaker as the intrinsic messiness of democracy. You think Americans in general are buying that explanation?
I think for those who are political nerds, they may buy it and say, yes, the political process is messy. We don't usually get to see all of the sausage being made. This week, we saw all of it play out. And Democrats, I know Republicans have been hitting them for talking about them having popcorn and blankets, but this helps the Democrats. Now, granted, this is just 1 week in time, and there's still going to be 2 years of fighting, but the Republicans will eventually get unified. This is to set an example and show that there is a problem even within the party. Democrats have the same issues. It's just the Republicans' turn to be in the spotlight.
All right, we're going to leave it there. To see this interview and others, go to our Fox Station's YouTube pages.
And keep the conversation going with us by interacting with us on our social media sites.
And next, we will look at the opening week of the Texas legislative session. Will the fight on Capitol Hill spill into the Texas Capitol Dome as Republicans bicker over the Speaker of the House and the tradition of giving some minority party members committee chairs? And remember, let us know what you think the issue is.